Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. In today's video I'll be showing you guys how to make this simple gathered flare dress with a deep v neckline and a tie shoulder sleeve. So I saw this dress on Pinterest and I decided to recreate it. So guys, don't forget to give this video a thumbs up, leave a comment, subscribe to my channel if you're yet to subscribe. So for this dress, I made use of about 3.5 yards of Ankara fabric. I have my tape rule here, my ruler, my scissors, my chalk, and my thread. So let's go ahead to fold our fabric. So this dress we're making has about 4 different layers. We have the upper part, the waistband, the first gathers, and the second gathers. So the first thing you're going to do is to determine how long you want your dress to be. So for me, I'm working with 38 inches in length. So I'm starting with 2 yards of fabric for the first part of my dress, the first part I want to cut out. So I'm working with 38 inches. I'm going to make sure I divide that 38 inches to fit into the 4 different parts of my dress. So at the same time, you can decide to cut your sleeve together with the upper part if you have a lot of fabric. But for me, I'm going to be attaching the sleeves to the shoulder point. So the first part of my top, which is the shoulder to the half length, is 16 inches. 16 inches. Then I'll have about 2 inches for the band, making 18 inches. So I have about 20 inches left to work with. So the first gathers point is going to be 16 inches, while the lowest gathers point is going to be 4 inches. I hope you guys understand what I just did here. So you can divide yours depending on how long you want your dress to be. So since I'm working with 38 inches, I made sure that the full length of my dress is covered in the 4 layers. So like I said earlier, we'll be starting with 2 yards of fabric and it's in a fold of 4. So we'll be cutting out the lowest part of the gathers first. So I will just go ahead and place my fabric this way because that part of my dress is going to be the widest. So I'll be making use of 4 yards of fabric for it. So right now my 2 yards of fabric is in a fold of 8 because of the way I closed it up, and the length of the lowest part is 4 inches, but I'll be cutting out 5 inches because of joining and the folding at the base. So I'll just go ahead and roll it out this way. So by the time I cut this out, I'm going to have about 2 pieces of the 2 yards fabric. I hope you guys understand what I'm doing. So I have 2 pieces of 2 yards, making 4 yards of fabric. This is going to be for the lowest gathers of the dress because that is the widest point of the dress. So I'm going to join these 2 pieces together when we get to that point. So I'll set them aside now while we cut the second gathers. So I'll just open up my fabric again to get my 2 yards of fabric in a fold. So this part is going to be 16 inches, and then I'll add 1 extra inch to it for seam allowance for joining at the upper part and the lower part. So my fabric is back to a fold of 4. I hope you guys can see what I'm doing. So I'll just go ahead and take 17 inches. So by the time I attach it to the lower gathers and to the waistband, I'm going to be left with about 16 inches. So I'll just go ahead to mark the 17 inches point, and then I'll rule a straight line before I cut it out. So after cutting out, this is what we have. So I'm still going to add about half yard of fabric to this part just to make it a bit fuller. But you can decide to leave yours this way depending on the waist circumference you are working with. And I want the length of the fabric to be more than ×2 of the waist circumference. So I'm just going to set that part aside while we move to the upper part. So the remaining fabric I have here is about 17 inches. So this is going to be for the upper part. So from these 2 yards of fabric, we've been able to cut out 3 different parts of our dress. So we got the upper part. This is the first gathered layers, which is about 2 yards of fabric. But I'm still going to add some extra fabric to it, like I said. And this is the lowest gathers point, which is about 4 yards of fabric. So we still have our waistband to cut out, and the straps we'll be using for the sleeves. So and then the extra half yards of fabric I want to add to the first gathers layer. So with that, we'll be spending about 3.5 yards of fabric. So I'll just set these pieces aside while we work on the upper part of the dress. So for the upper part of the dress, my shoulder to my half length is 16 inches, and I added 1 inch to it, making 17 inches. That is for the joining allowance. So I'll just go ahead to cut out the extra fabric I have at the base. So I'm going to separate this fabric into two because I'll be cutting the front and the back panels separately. So I'll go ahead to do that now, and then we'll start with the front panel of the dress. So I have the front panel separated already, and it's in a fold of two. So the first thing to do is to draw out a starting line at the top of your fabric. So this is going to be the shoulder line. So from this shoulder line, I'm going to take my shoulder to my bust point, which is 10 inches for me. So go ahead to mark yours. And then I'll take my shoulder to my waistline, which is my half length, which is 16 inches for me. So I'll just go ahead and extend the lines horizontally. So on the shoulder line, I placed my shoulder to shoulder measurements divided by 2, which is 8 inches, minus 1 inch, making 7 inches because it's a sleeveless dress. So I placed 7 inches there, and then from that 7 inches mark, I came down by my round armhole measurements divided by 2, which is 9 inches, and I took out another 1 inch because I don't want the armhole to be too opened, which I have here. And then I went ahead to place my round bust measurement on the chest line that I formed from the armhole. Then I connected it to form my armhole cover. I'm sorry guys, my video stopped recording. I didn't know, but that was all I did. So on this shoulder line, I'm going to take my neck width, which is 4 inches. So you can work with whatever you want for yours. And then I'll connect it to meet my 1 inch shoulder slope this way. So for the depth of the neckline, as you can see in the picture, it's a deep V neckline. So I'm going to connect the neck width now down to meet the waistline. So just connect it this way, forming my deep V neckline down to the waistline. So this is what we have after connecting. This is what we have. So the next thing to do now is to place the dart. So from the closed angle of the fabric, I'm going to place my nipple to nipple measurements divided by 2, which is 4 inches, and I added half an inch to it, making 4.5 inches. And then I'll connect that 4.5 inches point I marked down to meet my bust line. I'll take out ½ inch on both sides of the line, and then I'll connect those points down to meet the bust line this way. So it's going to stop just about ½ an inch below the bust line. So this is what we have. So the next thing we want to do now is to place the round body measurements. So on the bust line, I'll place my round bust measurements divided by 4, which is 10.5 inches plus 1 inch for seam allowance, making 11.5 inches. And on the waistline, I'll place my round waist measurement divided by 4, which is 9.5 inches, plus 1 inch for that and 1 inch for seam allowance, making 11.5 inches. So I'll go ahead to just mark it there. And then I'll connect the 2 points together. So after connecting, guys, this is basically all for the front part of this dress. This is basically all we'll be needing. So I'll go ahead now to cut this out. So go ahead to just cut it out just the way you see me doing in the video. So we're going to be using these front panels now to cut out the back panel. So after cutting, this is what we have. So after cutting out the front panels, this is what we have. So before I open it up, I'm going to use it to cut out my back panel. So I have my fabric here, and it's in a fold of 2 already. It's in a fold of 2. So I'll go ahead to place my back panel on it. So on the closed angle of my fabric, I'm going to take my 1 inch for zipper allowance. So I'll mark 1 inch on the closed angle of my fabric, and then I'll just use my ruler to roll it down. So I'm going to place my fabric, my front panel this way on it, making sure it stops at the zipper point. So I'll make sure that the neckline stops at the zipper point. So we're going to be working with a different neck depth for the back panel. So I don't want it to be too deep for the back. So I'll be stopping my neckline at the bust line, but we'll be maintaining the same wideness. So just go ahead and connect it from that point down to my bust point. Still the same V neckline, but not as deep as the front panel. So that is where the neckline of the back panel will stop. So you can decide to make yours deeper, or you can decide to make any shape you want for your back panel. So I'll just go ahead to just trace out the front panel on it this way. And trace out the armhole points. Yes, I'll go ahead to remove it now, and then I will just cut it out. So this is what I have after removing the front panel. So the next thing to do now is to cut it out. I'll take the shoulder slope. So after cutting out, I'll go ahead to rip the center opened. This is going to be for the zipper. I'll rip it open this way. So after cutting out, guys, this is what it looks like. This is what the back neckline looks like. So by the time we take in the 1 inch for zipper allowance, it's going to look like this. Back panel will look like this. And then the front panel would look like this by the time we sew it. I'll just go ahead to rip it open. So it's going to look like this for the front panel. So the next thing I want to do now is to cut out lining pieces for both the front and the back panel. And remember that the front and the back panel are going to be having fabric straps at the top. I'll go ahead to cut that out. So I've gone ahead to cut out my lining pieces for the front panel. So I'm using the same fabric as the lining. So you can decide to use a normal lining for yours. It's not compulsory to use the same fabric. Or if you're working with a more stable fabric, you just use a bias strip to turn over the neckline and the armhole point. So I'm going to go ahead and place them this way, right sides facing each other. And then I'll use 1/2 inch to stitch it on this side, on the neckline, all the way down. And then I'll close up the armhole as well, and then I'll do the same thing for the other side, right sides facing each other. I'll close up the neckline using 1/2 inch and the armhole point using another 1/2 inch. So I'm going to use the open angles to turn it over when I'm done. So stitch it all the way down. So I've cut out the lining pieces for the back panel as well, and I'm still making use of the same fabric. So I'll just stitch down the neckline down to the zipper allowance all the way down, and then I'll close up the armhole points as well. So when I'm done doing that, I'll show you guys what it looks like. So after using the lining pieces to turn over, this is what it looks like. So I have not ironed it out yet. I'm still going to do that. I just want to show you guys the next thing to do. So these are the front panels. I also went ahead to take in my darts. As you guys can see, I have sewed in my darts for the front panels, and I also took in the darts for the back panels as well. Took in the darts for the back panels, as you can see. So you can just take 5 inches from your zipper allowance for your dart for the back panel. So the next thing I'm going to do now is to join the sides together. So I'm going to arrange the back panels first this way, and then I'll place the front panel on it, right sides facing each other. I'll place it right sides facing each other this way, and then using the 1 inch seam allowance that we added to it, I'm going to stitch it all the way down the side. I'll stitch it on the sides all the way down. So remember that we are attaching straps to the shoulder, so I won't be closing the shoulder point. So after joining the sides together, this is what it looks like. I also went ahead to iron it out very well. So this is what we have, and this is what the back looks like. So the next thing we want to do is to attach our band to the upper body. So I've cut out my band already. The length of my band is my round waist measurement, which is 38 inches, and I added extra 2 inches to it for the zipper allowance. So I have 40 inches in length for both bands, and I went ahead to fold in 1/2 inch in, as you can see. And I've also ironed my gum stay on it to make it more stable when I fix it. So the first thing to do now is to get the center point of the band. So just go ahead and fold the band into 2 equal parts this way. This is to get the center point of the band. And then I'll take my scissors and notch the midpoint. So I'll repeat the same thing for the other band. Then I'll show you guys how to fix it. So to fix the band, the first thing to do is to open up the upper part of the dress this way. So this is the front part. So I'm going to place the first band at the wrong side of my fabric, and then I'll close it up this way, making sure the center point of my top is at the notch part of the band. So the right side of the band is facing the wrong side of my fabric, just as you can see. And then I'll just make sure I have my 8 inches neck width before I join them together. So as you can see, I have my 8 inches width for the neck, for the neckline. So after doing that, I'm going to place the other band on it this way. So just watch what I'm going to do here. I'm going to place the other band right side now, facing the right side of my fabric this way, and also making sure that the notched part is at the center point of my top. So the fabric now is in between the two bands, as you can see. So just use my pins to secure it down. So the upper part is now in between the two bands, and the bands are facing each other, right sides facing each other. So I use my pins to secure it now, and then I'll take it to my sewing machine and stitch it all the way down. I'll stitch it all the way down using half an inch. So the half an inch I added to it while cutting is for this purpose, so that it won't change the length of my dress. So I'll stitch it all the way down using half an inch, and then when I'm done doing that, I'll show you guys. So after stitching down the band and turning over, this is what it looks like. So I also went ahead to iron it out very well so that it comes out really nice. So this is what we have on the wrong side, and this is what the right side looks like. So right now I'm just going to go ahead and flip the back panels to the back. So this is what it looks like. The next one we want to do now is to attach the lower part to the upper body. So we are done with the upper part. So remember the fabric we cut out for the first layer of our gathers, which is about 17 inches long and about 72 inches wide. So I'm gonna have to add half an inch to it. This is just to make it fuller. So what I have on this on my waistline is times 2 of the length I have for the gathered points. So if you want your gathers to be fuller, you can cut out times 3. So depending on the amount of fabric you are also working with, and for the length I have 17 inches, so the extra 1 inch, half an inch will go for the upper part joining, and the other half inch is for the lower part. So right now I'm going to take it to my sewing machine, and then I will stitch it all the way down using a very loose tension because I want to use it to form gathers. I'll use a very loose tension and stitch it all the way down to the other side of the fabric. So when I'm done stitching, I'm going to gather the fabric and make sure the length I have is the same thing as my round waist measurement plus my zipper allowance, exactly my waistband measurements. I'm going to gather it that way. So before I do that, for the lowest part of the gathers, so remember we cut out another 4 yards for the lowest part. I'm just going to go ahead and join the two pieces together and then pleat it on at the base of this particular fabric. I hope you guys understand what I'm saying. I'm just going to pleat it and attach it to it. I'm going to form small pleats with it while attaching it to the other fabric. I hope you guys understand. So this is going to be the lowest part of our dress. So I'll go ahead to also fold in the base before doing that. So when I'm done gathering the fabric, I'll show you guys what it looks like. So after gathering the fabric, this is what it looks like. This is what we have. So I also went ahead to attach the lower gathers to it. So I just pleated the fabric on it this way, so it's not as full as the upper gathers. And I also went ahead to fold in the base by half an inch twice, just like I said. So after gathering, I made sure the length I have here is exactly the same thing as the length I have on my waistband. So the gathers point and this waistband now has the same length. So I'll just go ahead to measure it for you guys to see. So the same 40 inches I have here is the same 40 inches I have on the gathers point. So before I attach the gathers to the lower part, I went ahead to cut out the straps we'll be using for the sleeve. So I just cut out 2 pieces of fabric each and I turned it over. So I have about 21 inches here. So by the time I attach it to this point, I'll be left with about 20 inches. So I'll start with the front panel. I'll just go ahead and place the sleeve on it this way, right sides facing each other, and then I'll use my pin to secure it. So I'll just pin down the remaining straps to the shoulder points. I'll do the same thing for the back part. So right now, take it to my sewing machine and stitch it together using 1 inch. I'll stitch it on this side as well. And then I'll do the same thing for the back panels. I'll stitch it down. So when I'm done attaching the fabric straps, it's going to look like this. So by the time you wear it and you tie it on the shoulder point, it's going to look just exactly like the dress we are trying to recreate. So you're going to have it looking like this on the shoulder point. So when I'm done attaching the straps, I'll show you guys how to join the lower parts together. So to attach the lower parts to the waistband, the first thing is to get the midpoint of the lower part. So go ahead to fold it into two equal parts this way, and then just notch the center point. Go ahead to notch the center point. So after notching, I'm going to go ahead and place the wrong side of my fabric, which is the other side of the band. Just as you can see me doing, the other side of your band, place it on the wrong side of the gathered fabric. So the wrong side is facing each other. Then go ahead to stitch it all the way down. Just go ahead to stitch it all the way down this way. Wrong side of the gathered fabric against the wrong side of your fabric of your band. Then when I'm done doing that, I'm going to use the upper one to just close it up this way neatly and then stitch it down all the way. So I'll close it up this way and stitch it all the way down. I hope you guys understand what I just explained. So I'll use this upper one to close it up. So when I'm done attaching the band to the lower part, I'll show you guys what it looks like. So after joining the lower part to the waistband, this is what it looks like. You can see how neat it came out, and this is what the wrong side also looks like. So I also went ahead to stitch the sleeves like I said earlier. I stitched it down, and then I closed the back part. I just went ahead to close up the back this way. I close it up using my 1 inch zipper allowance. So the part that is left open is going to be the point where we'll be attaching our zipper. So this is like the final part of this dress. So I have my zipper here already, and I'll just go ahead to open it up, and then I'll place it on my fabric this way, making sure the part that has the teeth is on the other side, while the part of the zipper that has the fabric is on this side, just as you can see. So I'll just place it this way using my 1 inch zipper allowance. I'll go ahead to stitch it all the way down to the point where I closed the dress. And then when I'm done doing that, I'll repeat the same thing for the other zipper. I'll repeat the same thing. I'll fold it in at the upper part and then stitch it all the way down. I'll fold it in at this point this way and stitch it all the way down using my 1 inch. So when I'm done doing that, I'll show you guys what the finished product of the dress looks like. So after inserting the zipper, this is what the finished product of the dress looks like. I went ahead to tie up the sleeves so you can see how beautiful it looks and how easy it is to make. So this is where we're ending this video for today, guys. Don't forget to give it a thumbs up, leave a comment, and subscribe to my channel. I'll see you guys in my next video. Bye.